Welcome back to Barry T's Garage. We've got another episode of Ed's Answers here. We've got Ed Smith with me, and I've got collected some of the questions you all have asked. Either some of them are questions, some are comments, but we're going to get Ed's take on some of your responses to our videos. Since Ed, hi Ed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always fun to have you here to answer. Sometimes people make these comments. Of course, I'm left with answering comments online when I'm managing the channel. But it's much better when we can actually ask you in person.
Oh, sure.
And get your thoughts. Now, this first question here, they're asking about the different types of fuels and different octanes and how that works different when you're setting up an engine for compression, for timing, and those kinds of things.
Well, I don't know that much about it.
Okay.
It's octane, but I can answer a few questions right now. I know that the diesel fuel and like alcohol burns real slow.
Okay.
We run alcohol in our race cars like that one behind you there. Straight alcohol. Most of the time, straight alcohol. And then so it's one of those things that are a little bit varied, and I don't mind. You know. So sometimes maybe in our alcohol car, maybe the main event, I might happen to spill a little gasoline, maybe a couple quarts of gasoline in that 20-gallon tank of, so it makes it spark a little faster.
I see. Okay.
But anyways, the alcohol burns so slow and so cold, you have to run the timing up. Of course, in the alcohol car, that's in race cars there, the jets are much bigger and you use a lot more fuel.
Right.
So you use that weight off the rear axle. So you use twice as much fuel almost as the gasoline. So you use that weight off the back at the end of the race.
So you tend to want to put the fuel cell on the back of the car for
they're always in the back, but
yeah.
The weight of it is, you know, so much a gallon, and then you just lose that weight on the back of the car at the end of the race. So you hope that you're far enough ahead that they can't catch you anyways.
Okay.
You know, maybe
so you might be losing traction as you go through the race.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely, you do. Yeah. Okay. And back to the kerosene. Kerosene is a diesel fuel. And kerosene is a jet fuel.
Yeah.
It's the same fuel you use in your heater at home.
Yep.
It's a little sooty. It looks like jet engines usually make black streaks.
Yep.
And all that, but it's kind of strange. One of my pet peeves is the airport is off limits to any kind of EPA ratings. Totally.
Right.
Airplanes you can't talk to them. This is United States government.
Right.
Trying to clean up the air. When these jets leave Sky Harbor here every 3 minutes. Yeah. And you can go out here in the early morning sunshine, there's brown streaks all the way to California.
Right.
And I wonder why the runways at the airport aren't greasy with that much diesel fuel splattered all around it.
Yeah. I don't know how they keep that under control.
I don't know, but that's off limits.
Okay.
We can't talk about that.
Right.
So anyways, go back to the old engines then. And it's like my uncle had an international tractor. I've seen it just a few years ago that ran on gasoline and diesel, 2 tanks.
Okay.
You started up on gasoline, got it warmed up real good, and switched it over to diesel.
And it would run on diesel?
It ran just as well on diesel, a little slower.
Yeah.
A little less horsepower, so because of the spark.
Yeah.
But it would run on diesel or kerosene. Diesel is the same thing. Number 2 or something like that, as far as I know. Then the octane on the old flatheads, there weren't much. You could crank them by hand. Yeah. So there wasn't a compression. Maybe like the one guy commented, maybe 4-to-1, 5-to-1, something like that. And I think the flatheads were up around 6.5-to-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Get some horsepower out of them.
So I guess the lower the compression, the more flexible for fuel it would be?
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
To use gas additive. We used to use gas additives in the 70s in our cars because they were trying to get more horsepower out of them. And of course, we racing and street racing and stuff like this, we had to put gas additive in them all the time. Yeah. Or buy a special gas for $5-6 a gallon. Yeah. I had one car that had 2 tanks in the gas, 2 aluminum tanks and the round gas tanks in the trunk with Petcocks. So I could run on, if I drive around, I just run on regular gas. And then if I wanted to mess around and spin the wheels or something like this, ridiculous, then I would just turn the Petcock and close the other one and run the fuel out of the other tank, the expensive fuel.
Yeah, almost sounds like a poor man's nitrous.
Yes, yeah, a little bit like that.
Yeah, okay.
And so we could get in a nitrous sometime if you want to, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
And I still have nitrous here. I got 2 bottles sitting over there full right now.
Okay.
And that's a fun thing to do. It's real fun. But even though, go back to the thing of the gas, and the more octane you have to have a better spark.
Okay.
A better ignition. And like we're doing the Flatheads there, I've cut down some Chevy distributors that have advance in them. And the Flathead never had advance in it. It just had straight shaft. And if you set the timing on 10 degrees, it stayed 10 degrees forever.
Yeah, so you couldn't maximize the...
You can't maximize your horsepower at all.
Right.
With 10 degrees timing at 3,000 RPMs.
Yeah.
So that's all good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so now we get a random question, and we do this channel as a hobby, informational, even though Ed he builds all kinds of wild and strange engines, and his son has an engine shop that just really mills out a lot of engines. People ask pricing questions online, which I have a feeling I know how Ed's going to answer. People ask a price question as a simple little one-line question. What do you charge to make build 140 horsepower 8BA Flathead? So how do you answer a question like that?
It's hard to answer that because and people ask me, and they send me motors, and I rebuild them, and ask me how much I charge to rebuild that. You really can't tell and find out the block is really good in the first place.
Sure.
Now you have to choose another block and throw the other one away. That's not good.
Right. So the price just went up just right there.
Yeah, the price went up. Yeah, right there. And then depends on what he wants to do with it, what kind of car he's going to put it in, things like this. And so you're talking $6,000-$7,000 to build a Flathead. And the other day I tried to, for a 35 Ford, I think it was, I tried to buy some main bearings.
Yep.
And it was $150 for each main bearing.
For each one?
Each one, times 4. $600 for a set of main bearings, 20 under. That's how rare they're getting. They make new ones, but it says, oh, they're backordered for 6 months. So some of the things, and some of the parts you can get a reasonable price.
Yeah.
So
the answer is really there's so many variables.
There's so many.
That you can't really name a price online.
No.
It's just kind of ridiculous to try to do that.
And I don't get rich. I don't need to get rich.
No, but you also
my wife has all the money, so if I made some money, she'd just take it anyways.
So what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? As long as I get lunch. So
well,
anyways, so that's the plan. And I get done, I just add up the bill, and everybody's always happy.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's not
$10,000 or something.
Right. Here's the next question. Goes back to when you took apart that Chrysler Flathead, the old 230 cubic inch, I think.
230, cubic,
And you pulled out the camshaft, and you explained,
I said,
don't
why I didn't want to wash it.
Right.
Because it's like a sponge. It's got oil soaked in it.
Right. So what's the best way to deal with that? You still need to clean it up a little bit.
Well, you got to clean the scum off of it and stuff. And most of the time, a camshaft spins around all the time and don't gather much.
Right.
It's like a rolling rock. Gathers no moss.
Right. Right.
So it's pretty clean. There's nothing grody about it or anything like this. You can wipe it off.
Yeah. So Norm Sweet specific.
You wouldn't want to start glass beading it and cleaning it, and burn it in one of our ovens where it would bake all the stuff off of it. No, that'd be a no-no.
Right.
So that's my point. You could kind of clean it with kerosene.
Kerosene is a good answer.
A reasonable amount. Yeah, you wouldn't want to soak it in a bucket of kerosene.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's going to dilute the oil. It's in the camshaft.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So just kind of wipe it off.
Just wipe it off.
Kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same way with the lifters.
Yeah.
Just wipe them off and they go up and down. There's no gunk stuck on them or something.
Right. Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, the next question. This goes back to when we did that, and it was a very popular video about oiling a Chevy small block and how you address different oiling issues. And the question in this case is curious why you would grind the rods to direct oil toward the cam when you're putting restrictors in the valley. I guess those are those standoffs.
We'll grind the rods, side clears, so the oil won't stay in the connecting rod bearing in that area of the bearing.
Okay.
It's going to get hot and melt the bearing.
So the oil needs to be flowing through.
Through there.
Right.
So one of the guys asked me one time, how come his oil temperature is so high? I says, well, more clearance in the rod bearing sideways. And get that oil out of there and plow in the oil pan, let it cool off.
Right.
And come back around. nice and cold, and that would lower the oil temperature in the oil pan right away.
I see.
Because it has nothing to do with oil pressure. Yeah, nothing to do with it. You just want to get that hot oil out of there. We don't want the oil. We put the breathers up on top and let the oil run down. When we let it run down, we run it down the back of the engine, away from the crank, or else down on the front with the camshaft, timing chain.
Right, but not against the crankshaft.
Yeah, not against the crank, because the crankshaft will whip it.
Right.
And throw it up on the cylinder walls.
Yes.
And even though if we make this wider, it's still going to throw up on the cylinder walls.
Yeah.
And you got to be reasonable about that, and you have a good set of rings that keeps it wiped down off the cylinder walls. You'll find out you won't be galling the cylinder walls near as much, even if the motor gets hot.
Very good.
Sometimes these motors get hot. Our normal motor, I like to run it to get maximum horsepower at 200 degrees. And that's a shame right now that the factories writing new cars, they like to run at 200. And it's best economy, just to get economy. They don't care if all the plastic fittings underneath the motor and the radiator hoses, plastic, and the little nipples all melt, and get hard,
or
and
they
fall
get
off
brittle and break
break down. We just had another one the other day, a plastic nipple in the back of a Chevy 4-cylinder or something, or V8, it broke the nipple right off.
Wow. Yeah.
Just somebody, we got so hot it just crumbled.
Yeah.
But that was because it's 200 degrees temperature. And there's Arizona too.
Yeah.
But trying to get better economy.
Yeah.
And you're sacrificing something when you do that.
Right. There's always give and take, isn't there?
It's give and take, yeah. So if you can afford that, go ahead.
Okay. Well, here's another question about flatheads. Gentleman, I think it's George Parker, asks, he's an old flathead man. He's 83 years old. He remembered hearing somewhere that Canadian 59As were made with more nickel in the casting. Do you know anything about that, or have you heard about block failure with them versus normal castings? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that at all.
Okay.
I'm from Ohio, and we had a lot of Canadian stuff back there. The only thing I remember was the cylinder heads, I think, that didn't have any markings on them.
Okay.
And they were higher compression. And we used to put them on our dirt track cars, on an old stalker car, 32 Ford or something like this, or AB motor, and circle track racing. But other than that, the nickel in the block, we had never.
You never
when I
encountered
was
that.
15, 16 years old, we weren't worried about that.
No.
And if we were worried about it, we would have weighed them.
Yeah.
Because right away you weigh them, and you'll find out that nickel block is a lot heavier than the cast iron one.
Okay. So that's an easy way to kind of figure out what you've got.
Yes. Like the Chrysler Hemi motor looks just like a 440. It's the same size, only weighs about 50 pounds more. If you just weigh them.
Yeah.
And our cylinder heads that we get from Australia, they weigh a lot more than our standard cast iron heads.
Okay.
So we see that quite often, but that's a good way to tell. I don't know if there's anything electronically or somehow you could test them and see more nickel there. I don't know.
You showed me this fancy piston that had what you called no drag piston rings.
Yeah, that was probably. There's so much technology now on the piston rings, and my friend Lake Speed that works for Total Seal Rings, which
I've
is all good
encountered
friends
Lake
of us.
Speed online. He's done a lot of things about pistons and rings.
Yeah, he knows everything as far as I know.
Yeah.
The people all rely on his knowledge, but he's been doing it forever, and I really look at him too. But every day is something new with piston rings. And those gas ports I think he was talking about.
Yeah.
Well, we drilled holes in them years ago, and then the compression went through those little holes and pushed the rings out.
Right.
Then we could use a low tension ring that slide up and down the cylinder wall with no tension at all.
And when they say no tension, under the compression stroke,
It would
that's
have
pushing some pressure.
Yeah, push the ring out and seat the ring.
Right. But the other three strokes, it wouldn't
It has
be doing
nothing to do with it. And now they even take the ring and cut laser grooves at the bottom of the ring.
Really?
Yeah. Or the top of the ring, so that where the compression on the ring goes behind the ring, because there's a space between the ring and the piston, back in that corner, back in that crack.
Yeah, the ringland, right?
Yeah, the ringland back in there. There's some space back there. So they put grooves in the top of the ring, teeny grooves, and the compression goes in there, goes behind the ring, pushes the ring out, so that now they can use them without drilling holes in the top of the piston.
Ah, a different way to do it.
Maybe that's one of their secrets. I don't know, but I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's not a secret at all.
Right. Okay.
I
so
hope. I know they have some secrets at Total Seal. Everybody has secrets, but
Yeah.
Lake Speed, I think he'll tell you everything you need to know.
Okay.
If you ask him or
Yeah.
get a hold of him or something.
We'll see if we can get him to join
I
us
need to come
sometime.
over here one of these days, and I think he owes me some favors.
Well, we should have him in and do a show with him.
Yeah.
He
that'd be
does
fun.
that. I've seen him on
I know
other
he does
people's
that.
channels.
Yeah, call me someday when you're in town.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, going back to the Chrysler 230. Again, a lot of people are fascinated by this water tube that was kind of destroyed inside that engine. Those water tubes typically lasted the life of the car, as far as he knows, about 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, 10 or 15 years to life of the car.
Yeah, right. And he said, I don't think, and I think he's right. He said, I don't think they ever expected they'd be in service 80 years later.
No.
That wasn't even thought of. Did anybody make a brass water tube for heavy duty or marine use? Maybe they would last indefinitely. I
They
suppose.
do. Absolutely do. They cost a lot more money, sure, yeah.
Okay, but someone does make a brass
I think that guy
version.
asked me where I got this one from, and I got it on eBay.
Okay.
Just
You found
Chrysler water tube.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only one shown. I didn't, but it was
Couldn't
a fair
find any
price,
others.
and I just buy now, and
Yep.
that's how I got
That
it.
took care of that. You talked about using the torque plates when you're working on the 302 engine family.
Yeah.
And the 302 family includes the 351 Windsor. And someone asked, is there a difference between the Windsor and the 351 Cleveland blocks?
Yes, there's total difference.
Okay.
The Windsor is based off of the 302 family
Yeah.
with the motor mounts, bell housing, starter mounts, and things like that. And the Windsor block was basically a 302, an inch taller stroke.
Okay. And so the deck height was that much taller?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the intake manifold would have to be wider, possibly, I don't know exactly what the maybe an inch and a quarter wider to fit the wider heads.
Sure.
And the Cleveland motor is all based off of 460 family.
Okay.
So it has 460 mounts on it and 460 bell housing.
Okay.
Or 390. Not 390, excuse me. Don't get into that.
Okay.
So we'll get into the 429, 460,
Yep.
that family.
Those big block Fords, if you call it that.
that's the Cleveland.
So it'd be completely different. So the torque plates wouldn't be as important? Is that stronger block?
It wouldn't be near as important as that early family. That's,
Okay.
Yeah, the 302 family.
All right. And as someone said in the comments, if you want to do it right, you could use torque plates all the time, I suppose. If
Sure,
you
you could, yeah.
Uh,
Be time consuming, and it's going to raise the price of the engine
yeah.
a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, by the time you put them on there.
Yeah, because time is money at the end of
Time
the
is
day.
money, yeah.
So if someone wants to use torque plates, it's just going to
Yeah.
take more to do it.
Yeah.
Is it always the very, very best to use torque plates? Sure. Is it always cost effective? Is it always what the customer really wants for a budget?
And the 302 family and the 351 Cleveland family was a good family. And the only thing about those, when we first got them, Boss 302, we put big camshafts in them and headers and everything else, and it just made all kinds of noise, didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
But you need to buy the biggest camshaft. The ports were way too big.
Oh, it goes
Yeah,
back to that
really
airspeed
big
thing you were
ports.
talking about.
And so you had to put two carburetors on it at least, and buy big carburetors, the biggest camshaft, and the biggest header, and it started producing some horsepower.
I see. So tell me, now you mentioned the Boss 302. Was the Boss 302, was that a different block than the normal 302?
Yes, it was a Boss. It was in the Cleveland family,
Okay.
big round ports.
Yeah.
And that was in the Boss 429. We did one of those a while back here, and we put a stroker kit in it, aluminum heads and everything else, and roller rocker arms and all kinds of things on it. And I think that was over 500 cubic inches.
Wow.
Stroker and bore and stuff. And
That's
we did
quite a
a couple
build.
of months ago. Really a gorgeous motor.
Wow. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to come see that with aluminum head rocker arms and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed it. I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, you probably.
Oh, well.
We
Next-
probably didn't call you.
Yeah, you didn't call me.
Yeah, we didn't call you.
I
It
don't
was
know.
lunchtime or something. Maybe.
Oh, well. Well, Ed, thank you. This is another great episode. A lot of great questions answered.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you for that.
Yeah.
And shout out to Lake Speed. I think didn't Lake work for Joe Gibbs Racing? Do I
He
remember
did.
that
Yeah,
right?
he worked. Actually, his dad drove NASCAR
Yep.
for a while, and I think he might have missed in there someplace. He worked for Joe Gibbs Oil
Yep.
for years and things like this, and then got a chance to work for Total Seal. And it's the same thing. It's an oil business,
Yeah.
controlling oil and compression and yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank
Yeah,
you,
we had
Ed.
good
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks again for joining us on Barry T's Garage with another Ed's Answers. Please remember to keep asking questions. As we collect questions, we'll get Ed to answer them. If he doesn't know the answer, he'll make something up.
And make sure you send in $20 for each question.
Wait, there you go. Then we'll get someone to buy us lunch.
Yeah, right.
That'd be great. Hey, thanks again for watching another episode of Barry T's Garage, and specifically Ed's Answers. Please continue to remember to go ahead and send your questions in. It's fun to get Ed's response on those things and hear what he has to say. And appreciate you being involved and joining our program.